Hello and welcome back to Asia Now. In this video, I'll tell you about 400 foreigners arrested in the Philippines, 4 National Bureau Investigation employees caught accepting bribes, Philippines government allocates over 7 billion pesos to improve airports, and stick around until the end of the video to learn more about what or who is the Black Nazarene. Starting off with the peso to USD exchange rate, right now $1 equal to 58.4. Let's jump straight into our main story. Around 400 foreign nationals were arrested on Wednesday in a large-scale raid on a suspected online scam farm in Manila, the National Immigration Agency said. Authorities raided a building and found workers allegedly engaged in online scam operations targeting victims abroad. International concern has grown in recent years over similar scam operations in Asia, which are often staffed by trafficking victims who were tricked or coerced into promoting bogus cryptocurrency investments and other cons. Quote, the operations were found to be in violation of immigration laws and pose significant risk to the public, the chief said. In a statement describing the latest raid, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in July announced a ban by the end of 2024 on Philippines offshore gaming operators that Manila says have been used to cover organized crimes and trafficking victims and all kinds of other crimes. The Bureau of Immigration had been monitoring the Pogo-like activities of the raided company for some time. The statement said the foreign nationals, many of whom were Chinese, were undergoing booking procedures. Immigration Bureau spokesperson Dana Sandoval told AFP they will be temporarily detained while awaiting deportation, the Bureau said. The Washington-based think tank United States Institute of Peace said in May 2024 report that online scammers targeted millions of victims around the world and rake an annual revenue of $64 billion. Whoa! It estimates the industry employs 500,000 workers, including 15,000 in the Philippines, who are recruited by mainly via social media and were forced to carry out scams. This has been going on for a long time, at least for my coverage of the news and mainly the Philippines. But it's not just the Philippines, right? So even recently, on the border of Thailand and Myanmar, a very popular, famous Chinese actor has gone missing, and authorities think they basically captured him to make phone calls or whatever they got to do for scam online, because it's not just like regular folks, they also go after like celebrities. But I think it's important to note it's not all victims of trafficking or coerced or against their will. There's a lot of people knowingly doing this kind of stuff because they get paid, of course, they get some money. Now, it's not a good industry to be in, and there's a lot of scamming for anybody out there. So it's not just like gambling, there's also love scams, real estate scams, you know, all kinds of scams. These guys are like really organized. So if something seems too good to be true regarding anything, rental units, a relationship, investment like with money and all that, I'll definitely take a second look at some details to ensure you don't get scammed. And then in a related story, the Bureau of Immigration on Wednesday warned companies and individuals harboring illegal foreign workers from POGOs that they will face the full force of the law. Immigration authorities reminded the public that harboring illegal aliens is a serious offense. So yeah, if you guys are employing some of these guys that are supposed to be leaving the country, if you're harboring them, let's say you're renting out to some of them, that could be a really big charge against you. So make sure whoever's renting from you, whoever's working for you, has the proper documentation. And then 63% of Filipino families say that they are poor. Around 63% of Filipino families consider themselves poor, the highest self-rated poverty rating in 21 years. So this is a survey done by the weather agency. I don't know why they do it, but and that's who does it. And they basically ask a large group of Filipinos whether they consider themselves poor or not. I think last time the number was over 1,000 people surveyed, although not a very large, I guess, amount of people. I think it might still represent a good chunk of people and how they feel about their own status when it comes to economics and how much money they're making and whether they are poor or not. Staying in the Philippines has temporarily banned imports of birds and bird products from New Zealand due to an avian flu outbreak. The Department of Agriculture issued the order following reports that a highly pathogenic H7N6 bird flu strain in birds, eggs, poultry, meat, and other byproducts are included in the ban. Though shipments already in transit before the announcement may still enter if produced before November 9th, the measure aims to protect the Philippines poultry industry and food security, as this sector significantly contributes to the economy. While the avian flu rarely infects humans, it can cause mid-flu-like symptoms if transmitted. Current poultry prices in Metro Manila are range from 175 to 215 pesos per kilo of chicken, while eggs cost between 6 and 12 pesos each, depending on the size and the type. Actually, I'm not sure if the same thing. This is someone in the US, the first one ever, just passed away from bird flu. So I'm not sure if it's the exact same strain or not. This kind of stuff happens. Although the US incident, reporters said if you're not really dealing with animals and basically working on a farm or whatever, the chances are extremely low, but still something to keep in mind. And then in some positive news, the Department of Education will turn to private sector partnerships to build 15,000 new classrooms by 2017 in the Philippines. Its latest attempt to address persistent shortage that has forced scores of students to study in overcrowded spaces. That's great news to hear. More classrooms for students. When it comes to students and teachers, it wasn't until I got a little bit older I realized that, you know what? Teachers are not really appreciated in many countries. They work long hours, for example, and they do a lot of work outside the school, and the salaries typically aren't that high. And what I thought as a younger person was like a really reputable, or what's the word I'm looking for, like a respected field of work. A lot of people these days don't really care too much about teachers or their salaries or the conditions that they have to teach in. I know in the Philippines, a lot of classrooms don't even have AC, right? So given those like tropical temperatures, imagine trying to learn or even teach in a classroom like that. So the less people in a room, the more teachers can focus on individual students. And hopefully this will actually result in better scores and outcomes of students learning in these schools. And then in some great news, the Philippines government has allocated 7.7 billion pesos in the 2025 budget to modernize 15 airports across the country. The funding, part of the aviation infrastructure program, will be used to upgrade such as improving runways, terminals, control towers, and acquiring navigational equipment. Key allocations include 2.3 billion to Tacloban Airport, 1.6 billion to Pagasa Island Airport, 1 billion to Basuanga Airport. Other airports include Laoang, Camigan, and Zamboanga will also receive various amounts for upgrades. The initiative aims to improve air travel, attract more tourists, support local businesses, and create jobs. Incredible. If it was me, I'd allocate all of that into Naya, but that's just my personal beef with Naya. All jokes aside though, glad to see that the Philippines is improving some of the airports. It's obviously a very important piece of any country, the airports, people coming in, going, businesses, and of course safety and all that. I'm glad they're considering this in the budget and a large amount going towards that. More news from the Philippines, this time in a bribal case. Bribal, is that a word? The National Bureau of Investigation has arrested 4 of its employees, along with 7 other individuals who were part of a conspiracy to expedite clearance to applicants for a fee. The suspects were allegedly facilitating NBI clearance applications to exchange for a fee ranging from 800 pesos to 2,000 pesos. Imagine risking your job for 800 pesos and being arrested and facing the law, but not a lot of money. In the Philippines, the culture is very different, and a lot of times people will pay a little extra to get something done a bit quicker, and NBI clearance is needed for a lot of stuff like getting a job and going abroad, all kinds of different things. So it's not that hard to imagine somebody getting a bribe to make sure things get done a little bit faster. I'm trying to think when I've given somebody some money to, I'm sure I have at some point, but I won't say it's normal, but it's a lot more acceptable and out in the open in the Philippines just to hand over a couple hundred pesos to get something done quicker. I know it happens when you're shipping, like if you're getting on a boat or something, getting into a ferry, getting ahead of the line. I know in the past people have reported paying people to stand in line for them. So even immigration, they say no fixers. If you go to immigration officers, they're usually a sign that says no fixers allowed, right? So people just take a little bit of money to go ahead and do some stuff for you, and that can obviously be people from the public, and oftentimes when people, officials actually working in those offices and departments. So yeah, cool that they're taking an initiative to go ahead and stop some of this corruption at these kinds of levels. Our next story is from Thailand. After a decade, Thailand and Pakistan are resuming trade talks, aiming to boost economic ties through the Joint Trade Committee. Key plans include reviving free trade agreements, discussions, and collaborating in industries like food, textile, tourism, and gems. Thailand's exports such as automotive parts and chemicals complements Pakistan's resources like seafood and gemstones, with trade volumes already surpassing $1 billion last year. Both nations are poised for growth. Future events like Pakistan's My Karachi exhibition will further strengthen this partnership. Karachi is a very popular city in Pakistan. I don't remember much. I think I remember a bus ride when I was a kid. I went through Pakistan. It's a whole different world out there. So if you guys never traveled through that region of Asia, a lot of times it's been devastated by war, civil war, corruption, and all that's there. And I wouldn't really recommend it to a lot of people. If you're a Westerner, to be going out there, you really stick out, and kidnapping and things like that are very common in those regions. Obviously, Pakistan is a very large country, so it's not labeling all of that region, even Afghanistan, right? That's a whole different story. Speaking of Afghans, a whole bunch of Afghans actually landed yesterday, I want to say, in the Philippines to go ahead and get their visa process on the way to the US. So that's a whole story there. I'm trying to think some more stuff we can talk about. Oh, and now it's time for what I told you guys about the Black Nazarene. If you're on social media at any point in the Philippines, yesterday or today, you'll notice something's going on, some kind of festival, religious event. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to talk about this, but it kept on popping up, and I wasn't sure because I didn't know anything about it until I watched this little short video report from the Manila Bulletin, and here it is.
The Traslacion commemorates the transfer of the image of Jesus Nazareno from the Recollect Church in Intramuros to its present shrine in Quiapo Church. This event took place over 400 years ago, and the church now observes it annually on January 9th during the feast of Nuestro Padre Jesus Nazareno. The original image was brought to the Philippines by the Augustinian Recollects in 1606. Since then, the Traslacion has become an annual commemoration of Jesus Nazareno's first journey to its current home. The longest recorded Traslacion processions took place in 2012, 2017, and 2019, each lasting nearly 22 hours. In contrast, the 2007 Traslacion, which marked the 400th Traslacion, was the fastest in history, taking only 9 hours to return the image to Quiapo Church. In 2020 and 2021, the COVID-19 pandemic led to the suspension of the traditional Traslacion procession for the first time in modern history. During the 2024 Traslacion, Quiapo Church recorded an attendance of 6.5 million devotees over a 15-hour period, with about a fifth of them present at the church. This made it one of the largest crowds in the event's history.
And now it's time for a segment Yesterday Today, where I read some of the most popular comments regarding our video from yesterday that was brought to you from the beach. Brad says, terrible that the trans community expects everyone to be understanding and tolerant of their lifestyle, but when a waiter makes a pronoun error, he's berated and made a stand for 2 hours like a child. Totally hypocritical and divisive on their part. I hope he wins any judgment in lawsuit against this intolerance by the hypocrites. Dark H5 says, I would have called dude a sir too. Jalen Burton says, I'm surprised you don't know any expats there old enough to be in nursing home. I follow a lot of them here on YouTube, haha. I meant like, I don't know anybody that's in a nursing home, right? So some of the people that are older, they're not in nursing homes. And you'll be surprised how little I know about any expats in the Philippines regarding their YouTube channels. And the ones that I do know are usually younger. Some of the older guys are in Dumaguete or Angeles City or Manila. In Cebu City, there aren't too many. I think there's a lot of like middle-aged expats making YouTube videos. And that's it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, take a second out of your day, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And if you really want to show your support, consider buying me a coffee. I'll go ahead and leave the link in the description down below. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. All trafficking victims. Oh, shit.